Hi everyone, so today we're going to hear the Kids Club story about Queen Esther. Being Kids Club, we've got some actions for you to join in. So here are the words to look out for. Firstly, party. When I say the word party, I really want you to go for it like this.
Party!
The second word is angry, because there's a couple of people in this story that get angry quite a lot of the time. So your action for angry is this. And finally, the word big head, because there is a man in this story who really is an old big head. So when you hear me say the words big head, here's your action. So let's get into the story. Once there was a man called King Xerxes, and he loved to
Party! Yay!
In fact, one party was so massive it lasted 7 whole days. Now at this time, God's people, the Jews, were living in King Xerxes' country. One of the Jews was called Mordecai, and he had an adopted daughter called Esther, who was very, very beautiful. The king needed a new wife because he had become angry with his old wife when she refused to come to a
Party!
he was holding. So the king started to look for a new wife. But before a young woman could even see the king, she had to have a full year of treatments to make her beautiful. Esther had all of these treatments, and she was also kind and funny and nice to people, and everyone loved her, including the king. The king liked Esther more than any other woman, so he put a royal crown on her head and called her queen. And of course then, King Xerxes threw a huge
party.
Now Esther's stepdad Mordecai used to sit outside the palace to check that she was doing okay. One day, he heard the guards talking about a plot to kill the king. So he told the leaders in the palace, and the plot was stopped. King Xerxes had a friend called Haman, and Haman was an old head and always angry. But the king didn't know. Haman was being a big head and wanted everyone to bow to him and tell him how good he was all the time. Mordecai wouldn't do this because he only worshipped God. Haman was angry with Mordecai, but like a lot of big head, he decided to take it out not just on Mordecai, but on all the Jews. Haman went to King Xerxes to complain about the Jews. He made up lots of lies about them and said they were different and not to be trusted. Sadly, because Haman was his friend, the king believed him and told him he could do what he liked to the Jewish people. Haman was so angry and mean that he gave orders to have all the Jews killed and said that it was okay with the king, but the king knew nothing about it. Of course, Esther was horrified when she learned what was happening to her people. Esther could have thought that because she was queen, she would be safe, but Mordecai reminded her that if people found out that she was a Jew, she might not be safe either. He also reminded her that God made it possible for her to become queen so that she could help out her people when the time came. So Esther told Mordecai to ask the Jews to pray and fast for her so that she would be able to sort it out. Esther knew how much the king loved her
Party!
So she decided to hold one and asked the king and Haman to come to it. The king had a great time at the
Party.
and was very pleased with Esther. So he promised to give her anything she wanted, up to half his kingdom. But Esther was wise, so she just asked again that the king would come to another party she would hold. Meanwhile, Haman's big head was making him mad, and he bragged to his wife about how he was the only person the king had personally invited to the party. He was even more angry with Mordecai though. So cross in fact that he set up a pole and decided to kill Mordecai by hanging him on it. For some reason, after the
party,
the king had trouble sleeping, and he decided to read some books about his time as king. In these books was the story of how Mordecai had saved the king from being killed when he heard the guards plotting. The king decided Mordecai needed rewarding for saving his life. Then the king heard someone outside the palace. It was Haman putting up the pole to kill Mordecai with. Remember, the king saw Haman as a friend, so he invited him in and asked him a question. "What should I do for someone who pleases me a lot?" said the king. Haman, being a big head, immediately thought the king was talking about him, so he dreamt up all the stuff he would want. "Give him some of your royal clothes, your majesty," he said, "and a horse, and take him through the streets to show all the people how much you like him. Of course, throw him a
party, yay!"
The king was thrilled. "Good idea," he said. "Bring Mordecai the Jew and do all these things for him." Well, you can imagine, Haman was really angry and completely humiliated. But he couldn't tell the king why, and he had to go to the party anyway. As usual, the king was in a good mood at the
Party, party.
and again asked Esther if there was anything she wanted. This time, Esther took her chance. She told the king how she was related to Mordecai, the man he had just honoured, and how they were both Jews, and about the plot to kill her people. The king was shocked. "Who would do such a wicked thing?" he shouted. "Haman did it," Esther said. Now the king was angry. "By insulting your people, Haman is insulting you, my wife, and the man who saved my life." Then someone told the king about the pole Haman had set up to kill Mordecai. "Right then," said the king, "you can stick Haman on his own pole." From that day on, the Jewish people were safe with King Xerxes, and Esther and Mordecai lived happily in the palace. And of course, everyone had many more
Party!
Party.